Hey everyone, this is going to be a review of the Norwegian Bliss. In this video, we will not be talking about the Alaskan cruise we took on the Bliss. We will be talking about the boat itself. However, if you want to check out the review of the Alaskan cruise, go check out our other video that goes over it. And remember, this is our opinion, so keep that in mind. We are going to jump back onto the boat where we are doing the review, but there will be a few times where we jump back to the present to talk about things that we missed. You can check out the timestamps for the specific items you might be interested in. So without further ado, let's jump into it.
This cruise was a little bit different for us because we had an interior room, which we hadn't actually had before. The interior room was a lot smaller than all the other cruise rooms we've had in the past, and so we had to get used to that a little bit. It was also a little bit claustrophobic for us in the beginning. Space-wise, the room was definitely the smallest we've had, and we didn't have a lot of space for our bags. We also are going to do a room review, so you can check out exactly what our room was like. But we learned that we really don't like interior rooms that much. But overall, the room was nice, and I think the nicest room we've had as far as cleanliness and how new it was, like how recently they had redone the rooms. Our last cruise was on Ovation, and I was surprised to feel like our room on the Bliss was even more recently redone than on the Ovation of the Seas with Royal. Overall, we liked our room. We just didn't like our room choice that much, but the rooms are really nice. Go check out our room review so you can see exactly what it was like.
The next thing we want to talk about is the food on the Norwegian Bliss. Overall, the food on the Norwegian Bliss is great. There hasn't been really anything that we didn't like. We tried all of the complimentary dining, so that includes the buffet, the dining, so savor and taste, as well as the Manhattan room and the American diner and the local. Me and Javi were talking about this. If the buffet food is good, that means most of the other food is going to be good on the ship because it's the same food, just different variations, is what we've noticed. Norwegian has better food than Royal, I would say, in our opinion. A lot of the food doesn't start to taste the same after a few days, which that was kind of the issue we had with Royal. It all started tasting the same. We enjoyed it more than the Royal Caribbean Ovation of the Seas. We didn't try any specialty dining this go around because we were cheap and we just wanted to do the complimentary food. We did look at some of the menus. The food does look good, however it is pricey. We stayed on the complimentary dining options. We did get the soda package on this cruise. On Norwegian cruises, you have to get the drinks at the bars, whereas Royal has the soda machines in the dining areas of the ship. We've waited sometimes up to 15 minutes trying to get a drink, and it kind of seems like we're just getting passed by or ignored. So we've noticed that happening quite a bit at the bars when we're trying to get drinks. It's one area where we've noticed the service isn't so great. And one thing we kind of noticed with the drinks on the ship, especially when you go to the bars to get drink, it's very, very watery, and it's just not good. It doesn't taste like soda. Like we got Diet Coke, we got Coke, and they're coming from like the nozzle thing, you know, they have at bars, and so it's not an actual soda machine, so it kind of tastes watery.
I think if I came again and I wanted soda only, I'd probably just order it each night at dinner instead of even getting it at the bar because it's just not worth it. And so we don't drink a lot of alcohol, and we just probably order a few drinks here and there, and so the alcohol package isn't worth it for us. But I think on my next cruises, especially on Norwegian, I would just order it drink by drink versus getting any kind of package. There's plenty to get for free, especially if you're cheap like us. I don't think we would pay for anything extra. So talking about just the ship in general, like the main areas. Now, we're on a colder cruise, so this pushed everyone inside. So no one was hanging out by the pool. No one was hanging out in the outside areas. So a lot of the inside areas were packed all the time. And because of this, it was really hard to find an area where there was no people. The observation room was always packed, and it seemed like there was nowhere to go and chill where there was no people. Overall, the ship is really nice, but the layout makes it so that if you want a space to go chill, like, you're gonna go fight it with people. I think this ship would be okay if it was during a warm cruise, but during a cold cruise like we're on, there's just not a lot of space. The other thing is that, like on other ships, the main entertainment is split between the comedy club, the cavern, which is a small bar, and the Bliss Theater. Now, the Bliss Theater is a fairly large theater, but it's not the biggest one ever, and the cavern and the comedy club are fairly small. So if you want to go to something in the comedy club or the cavern, you're gonna have to get there really early to get a spot. And even at the Bliss Theater, it gets filled pretty quickly, so there's not like big gathering areas for people. We just noticed that everything seems a little bit small on the inside. It seems like most of the room is preserved for staterooms, and there's just not a lot of places to hang out. There's not a lot of shopping to be done, really, and which for us is okay. I mean, not here to shop, really. There's a good sized casino. It seems like everywhere else on the ship really is just taken up by bars and places to hang out, but a lot of them are outside, including where we're sitting right now, which is one of the complimentary dinings, the American Diner. It's a good place to hang out for sure, but it's outside, and right now it's freezing cold. So if you're on a warm cruise on the Bliss, I think that the ship will be spaced out fine. But if you go in the colder months like us, just be aware that everyone's going to be pushed inside, and you're not going to have a place to hang out.
Another interjection here, I forgot to talk about the entertainment, which I don't know how we forgot to talk about the entertainment, but we did. So I wanted to talk about the entertainment on the Norwegian Bliss. Usually we're not huge into going to shows and doing stuff like that on the cruises. However, we were with some family and decided that it would be fun to pass the time by going to some of the shows. So one of the shows that they had was called Icons. This is a show that was on when we were on the boat. And basically, they were just singing a lot of popular songs and dancing around. And I have a few clips that I will show right here. It was a lot of fun. The costumes were super pretty, and we loved going to it. We went to it twice, so that's surprising for us. Another thing that we absolutely loved was the Beatles experience. So these specific performers are contracted on the Bliss. So we had the Beatles experience, which they're from Argentina, and they sing and dance and dress like the Beatles. And they were amazing. This was one of our favorite things to do. We went almost every night they did it, so it was a lot of fun. Highly recommend. If you get the chance to see them, please do it. Overall, there is an endless amount of things to do on the Norwegian Bliss. They had shows going on. They had trivia things, lots of games. They had Wheel of Fortune, as well as Deal or No Deal. So you're never going to get bored on the ship. There's lots to do and lots to see. So one of the other things we wanted to talk about is the service. On the previous cruise videos, we've always talked about the service being really, really good on cruise ships, whether that's Royal Caribbean or Norwegian. For this Norwegian cruise, I would say the service has been okay. I would say probably not as great as our previous cruises, and I think that is because the season is almost ending for most of these people working, I think. And so I think that could be one of the reasons why maybe the service isn't as great, is seems like they're tired and they're kind of dragging. However, they are still kind and helpful, but it just doesn't seem to be as up to par as the other cruises. Another thing is usually for the room service, you get to know your room attendant or the person doing your room. However, we haven't even met him. He hasn't introduced himself. And usually we become besties with them and you get to know them and talk to them. But on this cruise, we haven't even said hello or seen him. So with the person cleaning the room, we've noticed they haven't really been cleaning the room. and usually they clean through it pretty thoroughly, and we get new towels and everything, or we have to like specify what we want done.
I just want to mention, I think it is because of the end of the season. Typically we have gone on cruises outside of the main season, but we've always gone in the beginning of the season. And so I wonder if our other experiences have been like we've seen the crew at the beginning of the season, but now we're seeing what it's like to see a crew at the end of the season. And so I don't really blame the crew. I can imagine by the end of the season you're just done and you can't be as cheery or as like on top of everything, but obviously like everyone on these cruises is paying the same. And so if you go at the end of a season, which I'm just assuming this, I'm not sure that that's absolutely the case, but you know, people at the end of the season are paying the same amount of money, so I can see how people might not like a cruise so much if they go at the end of the season. But for me, it's not that big of a deal.
Okay, butting in here to talk about a few things that we forgot to mention about the service. So there were a few times that the steward knocked on our doors when Do Not Disturb was on. And the first time was the steward was knocking on our door to give us a piece of mail, which was kind of weird because usually they'll just leave it where your room number is in that little slot. But another time there was a maintenance man knocking on our door when Do Not Disturb was on the door. And it was to fix our toilet, which I understand that's totally okay, but I feel like the steward should have maybe mentioned something about the maintenance man coming into our room and needing to fix that. So that was just another thing that we noticed. And we're part of a Facebook group for the Norwegian Bliss for our specific cruise. And a few people mentioned that they had the same problem as well. Someone on Facebook mentioned that they had the Do Not Disturb on their door as well, and they were resting, and the steward was knocking on the door, and they didn't answer it, and the steward just walked in. So I think that's kind of strange. I don't know why they would do that, but anyways, I thought it was interesting that people had the same issue. We just haven't had that kind of experience with stewards on our other cruises, so I thought that was something that we could mention. So another thing was when we first got on the boat, it took a really long time for our rooms to be ready, and this is something that you usually kind of expect on cruise ships. We got on the ship around 12 or probably more 12:30, 1 o'clock. And since we're carrying all of our belongings on us, like our backpacks with our cameras and stuff and the rest of our gear with us, we had to sit around and wait till our rooms to be ready because we didn't want to carry that around the ship. They announced over the intercom that our floor was ready, but when we got to our room on that floor, it still wasn't ready. The doors were open and they were still doing things. So I get that, but it took probably about 5 hours for our room to be ready. We usually will get on the cruise around 12 to 1 on our other cruises that we have been on, and the rooms usually won't take that long to be ready. So that was just something that was a little bit annoying, but that was something we noticed.
So talking about getting on and off the boat in the ports, so I think Norwegian has it down. They have so many security checkpoints for getting back on, and getting off is a breeze. On Royal, they only had one huge line on the Ovation for all of us to get off, and it took forever to get off the boat. Now, once you get off the boat, if there's a transport to get to the city, like in Ketchikan, I think that it's not really the ship's fault that there's only so many shuttles, but Norwegian has it down. You get off the ship so fast, and that's one thing I love about Norwegian and the Bliss is it's easy to get on and off the boat, even with a ton of people going out all at the same time. For us on the Bliss, I think if we had another cruise coming up and I saw it was on the Bliss, if it was a warm cruise, I think that I'd be fine with being on the Bliss. But honestly, I might look into other cruises that were smaller, or look and see what the amenities were like inside the ship and see if there's more spaces for people to hang out that might be a little bit more open, because I think there's just a lack of space on this ship. I think there's a little bit too much space that is put into the staterooms and not enough space for people to hang out in. But this is also coming from us being on an Alaskan cruise in October.
They have a lot of amenities that are kind of more used for, I would say, warmer weather. Like they have a huge water slide, they have go-karts, they have laser tag, And for me, it doesn't really make sense having that when it's super cold, and they only have outdoor pools, so that doesn't really make sense for me either. And a lot of times the slide and the go-karts and the laser tag have been closed because of the wind advisories. So that is another thing I would think about if you're going to get on the Bliss for a cold cruise like Alaska. If you want to do that type of stuff, I would recommend maybe coming on the ship when it goes somewhere warmer. So guys, thanks for watching our cruise ship review. Let us know if you have any questions about the ship, or if you've been on the ship and what you thought about it. Please let us know in the comments. We will be doing an Alaskan cruise review, so go ahead and check out that video next, and we will see you guys next time. Please like and subscribe.